Hello.
We missed
It's
all the Mad Max jokes. We hit far too late.
yeah, how you doing?
Good, good. All right, let's
Nice.
just jump right in. Um, we're talking today about agency audits. So, how are you actually evaluating? How do organizations actually evaluate vendors without guesswork? It's kind of the topic that we're focusing on.
That's an interesting one.
Um, yeah, it doesn't happen very often. I mean, maybe it does. It's hard to say because we wouldn't know as a vendor. But
Yeah,
unless things break down, then an audit starts to become I think part of the decision-making criteria for whether companies are moving forward or not with it.
for sure. I mean, we've worked with specialized vendors in the past, and like when we were in the earlier days, I kind of wish we had an audit to
Yeah,
some extent.
for
If
sure. Or yeah,
I
at
think
least a
that
scorecard for monitoring.
totally, yeah, because you would have started to see some gaps and could have been able to get ahead of conversations really quick rather than getting surprised. So, yeah, I really like this topic.
Cool. My name is
Awesome.
Marcello, and this is Simon. We are co-founders of a B2B website and product design company called Tennis. Typically working with medium, large enterprise-sized businesses, and yeah, we're on the vendor side. So yeah, a lot of the content that we create is really for people that are kind of like in the marketing roles within companies like that. And this is definitely a topic that we've heard come up before, and I think would help a lot of organizations to just evaluate, you know, how things are going.
For sure, yeah. And do you want to what do you mean when you say audit? Like at a high level, um,
I
maybe
mean,
unpack
mainly,
that.
yeah, uh, audit slash scorecard. I'm thinking more about, a scorecard that organizations can use to do an audit. So um, things are not going well, or things are going very well. How do you really even know as an organization?
Hmm.
Um, is there an evaluation criteria? And it might not be needed in all instances, but there's definitely some like digital transformation projects I can think of that are high risk. We're always talking about balancing and managing risk. Um,
Yeah.
Once you get into some of these digital transformation projects, how are you actually keeping track of whether something is successful or not?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. So it's kind of like it's not even really as much about a pre-audit so much as it's like an ongoing scorecard,
Yeah,
as you said. Like, how do we
exactly,
know that
exactly.
this vendor relationship is still delivering?
Yeah. So we've talked about the pre-audit, right? That's when you're evaluating vendors that you want to work with.
Totally.
Now you're in the process. How are you as an organization evaluating success? So
Nice.
um,
Yeah. So like not how to choose an agency anymore. We're talking
no,
about
we've
how
done,
to
yeah,
evaluate.
yeah, yeah. Um,
Nice.
yes. Have you ever seen anything like that happen?
You know what? I mean, I actually haven't. It's like I haven't personally. I can totally see the value in it. Um, I think after last year, we did consider like having some basic scorecard or system for our vendor relationships to just
Yeah, for
understand how they're
sure.
going because there's flags where we're just like these are non-negotiables or these are things that have to be discussed. But I'd say with a lot of our relationships where we are the vendors, I haven't seen that on the client side. And maybe that's just because of how open we are. Like the process is so much of an open book. We're usually in management meetings with people on a monthly basis to do these gut checks to evaluate. So, in a way, we're auditing with them to make sure everything's going smoothly month to month, project to
Hmm.
project.
Hmm.
So, in that sense, I haven't seen anything actually implemented on the business side officially. Um, and maybe that's
Yeah.
not the question you want or like the answer you want,
No,
but
I mean it's quite possible that it's not shared with us. I mean, I don't know. It's an internal. process, I think. We've talked about this before from our own experience with vendors, and we've had really good experiences. We've also had really bad experiences, and I think like one of the benefits of having a scorecard or like some sort of audit process is that if you meet certain bad criteria, the decision's kind of made for you. Like, I think in the past we've had some issues not cutting relationships fast enough, and that's because we don't clear criteria internally. So I think that's the use case for why something like this is important. It's not just agency vendor relationships; it's just basically all vendor relationships. So
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
our experience, we can speak from our experience as well because obviously we work with different vendors, and we've actively talked about this
for sure.
as a
And
policy
like,
that we would put in place going forward.
hmm do you think that there would be any hesitation from a leadership perspective? And like, if so, why?
I don't
Why
think
do you
so.
think someone would hesitate to audit a vendor?
I just think, like, we're maybe talking about it like it's an ongoing thing that just adds cumbersome work to a vendor experience. But I think it's just a scorecard, and it's something that you can fall back on if you are having um, critical issues. So my first question to kind of kick this off was when teams say they need to, or when they feel like they need to audit the agency, like what are they usually reacting to?
Yeah, that's a good one. I
And
mean,
we
I could
can
definitely
talk about
speak.
that from our own perspective as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, as a vendor, you would hope that they have a dashboard, whether it's for a project or a retainer. And if things are being logged appropriately, triaged appropriately, you've got a lot of data on like how quickly they solve things, right?
Yeah.
What's are there cost implications with those solutions, right? Do they keep nickel and diming, right? With every new ask, is it like a new scope of work that's delivered? Or, one of the most painful vendor experiences we experienced was like every single time it would be a change request. And I'm fine with change requests, but like when every email is like, that's a change request, that's a change request. And not only was it just a change request, the cycle to get the statement of work for that change and the impact assessment, we're talking weeks. So you've already lost all of this momentum. So I think things like velocity,
Yep.
um, momentum, cost, friction, like how long does it take to get to an aligned solution? Like some of these more nuanced, maybe qualitative things versus quantitative, but those are a couple of things too. And there's even the emotional side. Like, do you just enjoy working with this person, or is it just it's the dregs? Is it
Hmm.
dragging you down emotionally?
Yeah. And I
So
mean, agreements are there to be able to sever bad relationships too, right?
yeah, exactly. Like if you're just like, oh, I can't another email from this person, or like I know I'm going to submit this request and it's going to be weeks of like back and forth and fighting for ground. If it's combative, that's you don't need an audit, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
If you dread asking for something, that vendor is not a great vendor.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. I think those are triggers for sure. I think there's
Yeah.
the issue trigger, and then there's the variable trigger, which is it a one-off issue or is it systemic drift? So
Yeah.
uh, my next sort of question is, how do you tell that it's the difference between it being a one-off issue and a flag, maybe that this is going to become a pattern, and a pattern that may need to trigger something. See there.
Yeah. I mean, a one off is a one off thing. If it never happens again, then that's a pretty clear sign. But you do need to be tracking these things. And that's
Hmm.
where I think the scorecard suggestion you had earlier is just such a great idea. Because, it could be like, how many days was this delivery missed? How over budget was this?
Yeah.
Uh, things like that, right? How many how many times did this project or retainer change hands with project managers? Because that actually might be a clear sign that the vendor itself has a retention problem.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
those are good ones
that
too.
wasn't that was an issue we noticed with vendors. Like the projects we work on are pretty big, sometimes 1 year, multi-year, and we've seen it in the past where the project changed hands 3 to 4 times with a vendor that client had actually onboarded. So we just had to work with them. It's not like we
Yeah,
selected them. So we didn't really have much say, but man, it was like the most disruptive thing, if you remember.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, that happens with
that sort
on
of stuff.
clients too, right? So it's not something that's easy to evaluate, but
No.
culture is culture turns people over quite fast, and yeah, if you end up working with someone in a culture where turnover is that high, it definitely some complexity. Um,
Yeah. What about you? Do you have any thoughts on that question?
um, I mean, I think maybe like part of the scorecard is how much leeway are you willing to sustain, or how much grace are you willing to give? I think it's different for every organization, but like if it, it's hard to say whether it's. I mean, I don't know. There's some systemic issues, like for instance, if a vendor has a really hard time reporting on any sort of data that they need to report on, that's a
Mm,
pretty systemic issue. Like it only needs to happen once for you to be like, you're billing me for the wrong thing, or you're billing me the wrong amount, for you to realize like, oh my God, how is this even possible?
yeah. Don't they have an accounting
Um,
team like behind this or something?
a missed deadline can happen, but I think like the evaluation is like, what is the communication like? What does the client care
Mm,
like? Because if it's a missed deadline and there's no explanation, uh, that's systemic to me.
totally.
So, so I think there's a scorecard of items, and we can kind of go through like just a quick brainstorm of what we think, and then there's a severity, and I think you just kind of need to do an evaluation every now and then, especially maybe not in when things are good. You don't have to think about any of these things, like a lot of the topics, some of the topics, not a lot of the topics, some of the topics that we think about or talk about are preparing for when things are not good, because having a plan helps to just alleviate the pressure and the negative impact of some of these systemic issues that you come across with businesses.
Yeah.
So it's really just future planning. Like you create this checklist, you create a standard operating policy or scorecard, you create a standard operating policy of how you're going to use it. And then if something comes up, you fill it out.
Yeah.
You know, you decide on the severity, and then you can make decisions from there. But at least you have a fallback versus having to live and breathe the experience and also consider in the back of your head, like, do I need to reevaluate this vendor? Or,
That's
like some
true.
companies work with vendors for like 5 years more, and eventually there's some friction that happens. Businesses change so much, clients change so much, and vendors are not always a good fit for client and vendors are not always a good fit for each other. So it's something that I think is just a good fallback for evaluating vendor relationships.
That's true. I liked what you said about it being like systemic issues. It's like I've been thinking about this for a while, just with AI. Not to bring AI into the mix here, but like most agency problems aren't really quality issues. It's mostly
Yeah,
systems
totally.
problems, and I think that's where a lot of the value of like a really high quality agency is. Their work, their craft, all that stuff. It might look great, and people might be able to in the future turn stuff out with AI, but what is the client service like? What are their systems like? These are the like operational things that
Yeah.
can be a make or break for a lot of the clients. Like a lot of our enterprise clients, they are looking for governance, operations, and systems. They they trust the craft. They've seen the work. They understand the quality standards that we uphold. But, nothing disparaging. You can get that anywhere. There's other
Hmm.
reasons that people work with us. And part of that is the process, the systems, the people, the relationships, and like the attention to the quality of the client experience. So,
Mhm.
and I think, yeah, I got no other point to follow up on that. I kind of just trailed off.
um, all right,
Um,
let's keep it simple. What are like five? I mean, five might even be too many, but what do you think are five sort of like categories that are important to evaluate um, on a scale, on a severity scale? I could give you two right off the top of my head.
okay, let's hear it.
One is communication,
Oh, that was,
and
yeah, that was my number one.
communication so important. Um, and communication is also one of those things that I think is really undervalued. Like if you work with an, you think about how to say this, it's almost an invisible benefit. Like when organizations are really good at communicating, uh, I don't think companies even realize. That's my first point because the communication is there, so there's nothing to realize really. You're experiencing good communication, good client care. But
Yeah.
the other part of that is that I think those are usually good organizations because I think to get to that level of communication, you need to really build and foster and hire appropriately to deliver that kind of client satisfaction and client communication. And so it's the small thing that really shows how good a company's culture is. So communication is the first one. And then the other one I was going to say is reporting. So if you're in one of those client vendor relationships where reporting is involved, even if it's not tied to billables, it's something that you probably still want to review, and it should be so easy. It should not be complicated to get a report and to understand where the hours are going
Yeah. Especially if you're on like,
for that type of work.
yeah, for time and materials work,
Yeah,
100%. Like if you're not tracking it
it's still
and
common in the industry.
yeah, but like for something that's not time and materials, I think at a minimum, you should still be able to report on work done, not
Yeah.
level of effort, but work completed in that month or in that week. Like it kind of it ties together with your communication a bit as well.
Mm,
So communication just about like manage general management of the work, and then communication of like reporting progress on the work as well.
hmm hmm
So nice. Well, I think, yeah, we might not get to five. I've got just one to maybe tack on. I was going to say communication, but documentation. And this is beyond reporting. Like documentation for me would be, has every decision, prototype, version, does that live somewhere cohesively? So
hmm
that way the project as a whole is one container and anyone could pick it up, know where to start, know where to go next. Like obviously within reason, but you know, the idea of good documentation is that anyone can pick it up and get a general idea of what's going on, what happened here. You need to be able to audit that work.
hmm
So if you don't have documentation and traceability baked into your process, just like we mentioned on the last episode, I don't know, it's a problem. It is a big flag
Yeah.
for a vendor, and you should know that. Just if you've worked with them long enough, you'll know what their documentation looks like, and if that stuff starts to drift, decisions aren't recorded. Decisions are being made without your consultation, and you don't know how they got there. Those are all flags to consider in a scorecard.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I can. I think those are really the core, and it's probably honestly, I
Yeah.
feel like this kind of thing you want it to be simpler than complex, and so ranking on a scale for three items that are end up being huge problems often.
Yeah,
It's probably just a good baseline for making a decision. If like all three
definitely.
of these are failures, you're in a quite big.
Yeah. I mean, you could always have quality, right? But ideally, you've hired them because of the quality, so you know that going in. But you might want to
Yeah.
pay
Also,
attention to see if quality starts to drift, I guess. That would be something to
yeah.
consider.
Okay. We'll add it.
Okay. 4, max 4.
Quality drift.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. Well, I mean,
solid.
that's pretty much, I think that's good. We could
Nice.
even put together a little summary uh, doc, like a slideshow.
Yeah. Downloadable scorecard. No, let's
Yeah, we
not
could
do
do it
that.
done. That's going to require
No, no, no,
hopefully
no,
a
no,
lot more work. Just a cheat sheet.
Another
Let's do
day.
a cheat. We'll do a cheat sheet.
Yeah, I like that. That's a great idea.
Um, Perfect. All right. Well, if this was helpful, like, subscribe, connect with us, give us some feedback. Also, would love to hear any other topics that you guys want to unpack a bit more. And we'll see you next time.
Nice. All right. Thanks, dude. Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.